My name is Brian. I'm going to be speaking to you in English. I hope that's okay. I come from Australia and I don't have any choice about the English. I'm also Swedish, but that's not going to do you any good. So, still mutually unintelligible. So, to know slave-free trade, which is what I'm here to talk about, that's my PowerPoint there. That's the beginning and the end of it. Is it up? Yeah. That's the beginning of the PowerPoint and the end of the PowerPoint, so you don't have to do too much reading. I'm the CEO and founder of Slave Free Trade. We're a Swiss NGO, 154 people around the world, and we work on human rights to end modern slavery. And I need to explain how this all happened. So by profession, I'm a counter-slavery operator. Now that takes a bit of telling a story as well. I started as a soldier, then I became a federal agent in Australia, and I specialized in counter-narcotics and counterintelligence. I was then posted abroad. I was working counter-narcotics in China for Australia when a drug group we were following started trafficking babies. And the moment I opened the sports bag and saw 2 babies in this bag being trafficked for adoption, my life changed 20 years ago. Narcotics suddenly didn't feel so important. There was something here that needed much more attention. So I quit my job and I became a freelance counter-slavery operator. Now what that means is that for the last 20 years I've been digging around in the stuff that people just don't want to talk about. I'm going to give you some examples. It's not exactly child-friendly, I'm sorry, but slavery is not. My work as a counter-slavery operator, what that means is rescue. Rescue of a 17-year-old girl from Albania, prostituted in Italy, her teeth pulled out so that she could be safer for the men. It means a rescue that I didn't get there on time for. A 15-year-old girl in Nigeria, strung up and gutted in front of the other girls so they wouldn't escape. A 12-year-old Khmer boy trafficked onto a prawn boat for prawns that ended up in European supermarket freezers and in your Chinese food. He was shot in the head, thrown overboard, along with 2 of his friends. And my job was to find out what happened. As always, I get called too late. The girl from Italy, none of these stories end well. They're all absolutely awful, and they never end well. Even when I get a rescue done on time, like the girl in Italy, arguably years late, right? But even when I get her out, she ends up suiciding anyway, because the trauma of what she's experienced is so outrageous. Now, if you think this is isolated cases, it's true that what I see, because I'm an operator, is the very worst forms. I get called when things are really awful. So these are the worst forms. But we are not talking about isolated cases. How many children do you think are in child labor right now? 160 million children in child labor right now. More than 40 million adults. Human trafficking, and let me clarify, modern slavery is 4 conditions: forced labor, child labor, human trafficking, and slavery and servitude, which is the kind of old idea we had about what slavery was. It's the transatlantic slave trade kind of slavery. And that still happens. I did a cocoa farm job where boys were chained to the cocoa trees to sleep at night. That still happens. And it's happening in our cocoa, the chocolate you eat every day. It's happening in the clothes that we wear. My 9-year-old daughter sits at the table wearing a shirt that is almost certainly the cotton was picked by a child younger than her. Tulips, strawberries, prawns, tuna, leather. The list is endless. Canned tomatoes from southern Italy, for example. I attended a case in southern Italy of a migrant worker kicked to death after he tried to escape, picking tomatoes for the canned tomatoes that end up in our pasta sauce. Now, to me, this is obscene. And to be frank, there came a point 4 years ago after the case in Nigeria, I was completely shattered. I've been doing this since the year 2000, seeing just the detritus of humankind, the awful things people do to other people in the name of products. Every single one of those cases was about a product, whether it be sex as the product, or whether it be leather as the product, or prawns. It's always about a product, and what happens is the product comes first for everybody involved. The human is irrelevant. The girl in Italy was irrelevant. She was kicked and beaten, and she was irrelevant. The boy shot in the head was irrelevant. It's all about the prawns. So what we've done for far too long, for the entire time I've been doing this job, we've been putting products before people. So I created slave-free trade, and you can see from the logo, the hand is in front of the leaf. The leaf is cocoa, coffee, rubber, palm oil, you name it. It's the primary production or representative of primary production. The hand is in front of it. Let's put the person before the product for once. So the whole idea of slave-free trade, we're creating a complete behavioral mechanism, a system, whereby you can use your power, your wallet. Public procurement agencies can use their power, $9 trillion a year in OECD's public procurement alone. That's a massive lever, but we are not using it to effect. So if we can gather all of these forces, if we can get investors to have a look at companies that they're investing in, and they can say, well, we're going to invest in that company if it's human rights friendly. Is there any slavery in that company? We don't want to be buying slavery. Let's get investors talking about that. Let's get public procurement agencies who get 5 bids for army shirts for the Swiss Army. Let's get them talking about which of these 5 bids is human rights compliant. We don't want to send our soldiers off in shirts that are made by slaves to a country where they're probably creating more slavery. None of these things make sense unless we start to put the human before the product. So what we're doing at Slave-Free Trade, it's a massive volunteer exercise, and there are a number of things we're doing. We call it rights tech. So that is the combination of human rights law, international human rights law, and technology. So what we're trying to do, and we've actually achieved the first part of that, the human rights piece, we created a framework of human rights by identifying all the parts of international human rights law that relate to workplaces. And we pulled those all together and created a definition of decent work based only on international human rights law. In our system, it doesn't matter if Bangladesh says the living wage is down here. It doesn't matter in our system if Mexico says sexual harassment is not a thing. In our system, it's international human rights law. It's agreed, it's universal. It's fundamental rights. Why on earth are we questioning that when we allow countries to change those rules? So let's set the standard at that international law standard. So then we identified these 10 principles. No forced labor, no child labor, healthy and safe workplace, no racial discrimination, religious discrimination, no sexual harassment, no gender pay gap, no bullying. All of these conditions, when they're met, and we have 100 indicators, so each of these questions is 100 indicators. We use these 100 indicators where if you are of a certain sufficient standard against each of those indicators, you're slave-free, you're human rights compliant. And the intention is to put this on products, companies, NGOs, government departments. Any workplace can be human rights friendly, right? It's all about the people. So any workplace. And we put that on the organization, and then the intention, what we're working on, the tech side, is to make it so that you going into a cafe in Lucerne and having a coffee, what we want is the barista then offering you the slave-free coffee. And you say, of course, right? We've tested this. It's 100% consumer conversion. Nobody wants the other one once they're given the choice. At the moment, there's just no choice. So let's exercise that choice. Get those people going into the cafe, choose the slave-free, and when you sit down and enjoy the coffee, you scan the barcode of the beans because it's on the slave-free sign in the cafe. And in the Slave-Free Trade app on your phone, you can see every single workplace connected in a map on your phone and the human rights performance of the entire chain and every workplace in it. And eventually you'll even be able to tip the plantation workers who picked your coffee beans. This is the world of rights tech, human rights and technology coming together. Everybody else is doing it, ed tech, med tech, biotech, fintech. Why not rights tech? Why is this the last thing we do? Fintech has been on the scene for 10 years. Rights tech has only just arrived. So this is what slave-free trade is doing. And then eventually we can communicate that data in real time to anybody who wants it. And the challenge for us as a volunteer organization is, I mean, to be frank, we're a non-profit organization, so our biggest challenge is funding, right? We're doing everything out of my savings and a few other sources. I'm all spent, so we're moving very slowly now. And we've got some staff in the audience. I'll be taking their cash later. But we're doing what we can on the funding we have, so that's our biggest challenge at the moment. But one of the other things we're missing is skills. We need people with all sorts of skills, from social media to law, from human rights to marketing, from sales to, I was going to say legal again, but I've already done them, finance, let's say. We need a lot of people doing a lot of different things. Doesn't have to be what you normally do, but we are very happy to take more volunteers in and really power what we're doing. We've got a lot of really exciting things come up, including the first phase of the consumer app that I talked about. I've gone over now. So we're not going to take questions until the panel, I think, and my voice is running out now, so I need some water. But just to say, please get involved with slave-free trade. There's lots of slave-free traders here in the audience. I think half the audience is our people, so we decided to boost the numbers that way. So contact one of the slave-free trade people, or just come up to me and please join us, or if you think you can help us, connect us with people who are interested in sponsoring what we're doing or donating to what we're doing, because this is a moment where we can change completely the economic system around people and products.